Sundown towns are currently active places all over America that are either not friendly or are actively hostile to outsiders after sundown. Historically, and in some places up to 2023, there was a bell or siren that sounded at around dusk so that those not from the area would know to leave. And yes, lynchings and other stories like that have come out and are still coming out of places like these. In this video, I will be going over what to do if you find yourself in one and how you can hopefully come out alive. But before I get into that, this video is a follow-up to my other video about my own terrifying experience in a sundown town. And while you don't need to watch that video to understand this one, I do suggest you watch it afterwards or first so you get an idea of some of the stuff you might encounter when entering a sundown town. And disclaimer, I am not saying that everyone from a sundown town is evil or wants to harm you. In fact, if you do go to a sundown town and mind your business, I want to say that there's a 91.4% chance that nothing happens to you. This video is going to cover what to do in case you run into that remaining 8.6%. And so before I give advice on what to do, I need to give some background to explain why I have at least some qualifications to talk about this. I spent the first half of my childhood in a place called Schaumburg, Illinois, and around the middle of elementary school, my family moved to a place called Naperville, Illinois. Naperville was a sundown town until the late 1970s. In fact, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., yes, the MLK, was both threatened by the KKK and denied a hotel in Naperville when he came to speak at the local North Central College. And yes, 2025 Naperville, or the 2000s for that matter, is not the same Naperville as the 1970s. I am not here to slander Naperville. In fact, I can personally vouch that Naperville is very friendly. And if you're from Chicago, please give us a chance. It is just that because this place used to be a sundown town really not that long ago, and people who used to be a part of that old sundown town haven't just despawned, or at least not all of them. It is because of that I have had the chance to learn the mindset of people from that era, shall we say. And not only that, but because I grew up in the Midwest, I have been in many different sundown towns during the day and once at night while traveling, which is what the other video is about, by the way. And because of that, let's just say that I have picked up a thing or two when it comes to navigating these environments. So let's say you're on a cross-country road trip from Los Angeles to New York City. Well, unless you have discovered a method for infinite fuel, which if that's the case, make sure to tell all your friends and family that you are not suicidal. You need to stop for gas or food or both along that trip. And so in those stops, you may end up in a sundown town in the day or night. So what do you do? Number 1, mind your business. This advice goes for many things in life beyond just sundown towns. And while this advice is common sense is not all that common. I am sure we all know people in our lives who do not know how to mind their business. But to be more specific, let me give an example. Growing up, there was probably a period of time where you felt invincible. You're a kid, you're ding-dong ditching people, laying wet rocks in campfires so they explode, doing Ouija boards with your friends in abandoned basements, all that fun stuff. Well, as you get older, you start to see consequences. Friendly fades or some small street side scuffles are something you goof and gaff about until one day you see somebody get laid out and their head smacks the pavement and they start seizing up like a dying grasshopper. And then it suddenly hits. This is real life. There are consequences to the things you do. It's not always dramatic, but it can be. When you enter a sundown town, you need to drop whatever ego you have about how you might be treated. You might get strange looks, strange questions, or strange encounters. But if you start a fight in a sundown town or get involved in trouble, understand that it's most likely not gonna be a 1v1 friendly fade. You might end up on a milk carton. So the first thing you do in a sundown town is do not cause trouble and mind your business, which again applies to life in general, but is especially pertinent to this particular circumstance. Number 2, listen to the locals. Sundown towns used to have obvious signs and sirens and bells indicating that they are sundown towns. These days, most sundown towns usually look like any other small town in much of rural America. There is a website and registry listing out a bunch of active sundown towns that are in America that I will link down below. But understand that there's many more towns that are not on on that list. So just relying on it to plan a road trip or something like that may not be the best idea. In a sundown town, if you are an outsider and the locals start chatting with you, they are most likely friendly. Obviously use context and your brain. Like if they are glaring at you, then okay, then they're probably not friendly. But if you get like the vibes that this is a normal conversation, odds are the person talking with you mean you no harm. However, many of them, as I have been told myself personally, will warn you that you should be gone by nightfall. Not necessarily because they are going to do anything, but because if the rest of the town does want to do something to you, they won't be able to save you. The ones that really hate you are most likely not going to talk to you, or if they are, it's going to be very cold and hostile. And again, use common sense. If they have a big smile on their face and they're telling you to follow them to a dark basement, you should probably ask for a waiver. But seriously though, if the locals seem conversational but warn you about like when and where to be gone, or like don't go there, or hey, this is bar on blah 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 street, don't go there, I would listen to them. Unless you want to find out the hard way. Number 3, carry provisions with you. I get that sometimes there's like a time crunch or just circumstances where you have to drive and stop at weird times. I highly suggest that at least for long road trips through less populated areas, you carry a spare fuel tank and provisions with you. No, this isn't always needed, but if you are driving at night and need to get gas, it is just that many of the gas stations around sundown towns are those where you have to go inside to pay. Not all of them are, of course. In fact, the one I went to wasn't, but you usually don't know until you get there. What this means is that you could very well draw unwanted attention to yourself if you need to stop and get gas in the middle of the night. Number 4, stay on the outskirts. If for whatever reason you need to stop at a sundown town for gas or anything else, especially at dark, try to stay on the outskirts of that town. That might seem counterintuitive, but remember that in this situation, you don't want to be put in a place where you are heavily outnumbered. Pulling into a more remote area to get what you need and drawing as little attention as possible and keeping it moving is a safer option. That doesn't mean to let your guard down, but a lone gas attendant is less likely to start trouble even if they don't like you versus showing up in the middle of an entirely hostile town. Number 5, have a gun on you. However you feel about guns, please hear me out. Let me make this clear. I do not carry a firearm on me because I'm fiending to blow somebody's brains out. I do not carry a firearm on me so I can show it off, nor do I carry a gun on me because I want to get into an action-packed Hollywood shootout. I carry one on me because it is used as a last resort if I am ever in a situation where I feel like I am in danger. You will not physically see me have a firearm on me unless you see me get dressed, I guess. If you have followed my advice so far, which to be fair has been mostly common sense, albeit common sense will save you throughout much of life, you will most likely be fine at a sundown town. However, if you do run into trouble, this is where things can escalate very quickly. You cannot apply logic to illogical situations. If someone wants to harm you because you are an outsider that they don't like because of your appearance or background or whatever it may be, that is illogical and you cannot logic your way out of that. And so while many may not like to hear it, and you are, by the way, more than welcome to disagree with me and give your own opinions, the blunt reality is that a firearm is the best chance you have of getting out alive if you are actually threatened with harm in that circumstance. Let me elaborate. Let's say you are surrounded by a group of people that are swearing harm on you and you pull out a firearm, or in my case, a 5-shot snub-nosed revolver. No, I am not about to squad wipe everyone surrounding me and bust out some John Wick maneuvers. If I do use that revolver, I can get 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3. But in the end, I am going to lose. So is a firearm useless? No. Sure, I might not be able to take out the mob surrounding me, but do you want to be the first in the mob to approach me? Do you want to be the one of the unlucky 3 that takes 38 special to the chest? Probably not. Unless you're freaky as fuck. A firearm is a deterrent. It is telling people around you, hey, you might win, but is it worth the risk? Now, I know someone's going to say, well, pulling out a firearm can escalate the situation and make things worse. And I do agree. In some circumstances, that can absolutely be the case. But in this situation, the mob isn't here to invite you out for a seafood boil. They want to turn you into the seafood boil. Things have already escalated. Pulling out a firearm is not going to make the situation worse if the people wanting to hurt you are already set on doing so. In sundown towns, they are typically quickly. In fact, I'm pretty sure always small towns. Everyone in there knows each other. The police all know each other and the locals. Calling 911 won't do anything. In fact, if you call 911 and law enforcement shows up, it's almost certainly going to be another local. What are the odds they side with you? And no, I'm not saying there's a 100% absolute chance that the police will not side with you. I'm asking if you want to place your life on the odds that they will side with you. Do you think that is a good idea? No one is going to save you. This is not a movie. If you are surrounded by an angry mob that genuinely wants to string you up, there's not gonna be a big explosion, alright? Everybody gets knocked to their feet, and out of the smoke emerges the A-team, and then you hear, "Kept you waiting, huh?" And then everyone rides off in the sunset. People die all the time. Unfortunate, of course, but that is a reality. People die in unfair ways. People die in stupid ways. Some people beg for their lives before dying to die anyways. You and I are not too special to die. If you are face to face with people that are ready to kill you, there is no, time out, my bad, I should have learned how to shoot. Let me get my carry license and a gun. So with that being said, why would you stack the odds against yourself? Will a firearm save you 100% of the time? Of course not. But the odds are more in your favor in this scenario if you do have one. So why not take it? Now, this does not mean, I really want to emphasize this part too, buying a firearm in itself will solve all your problems in this circumstance. You need to learn how to properly use it alongside having situational awareness. Your Glock with a red dot isn't gonna do shit if you have zero situational awareness and get it snatched while waiting to buy a gas station hot dog and staring at your phone. It also isn't gonna do you any favors if you don't train with it or know how to safely unholster and reholster and you end up blowing your femoral artery in two. So don't just buy a firearm either after you hear all this and keep it locked away forever, and don't stop practicing after you go to the range with it once. Getting back on track, and this is the most important part. If your plan to stay safe is to rely on other people to not harm you, especially if you are part of a group that is more likely to be targeted, that is what we call in military terminology a dumbass plan. Sure, in many places you can get away with that plan, but in a sundown town, if you are targeted, you are placing a lot of faith in the other person who already doesn't like you, not harming you. Do you want to take that risk? Some people might say, well, even if they hate me for my appearance or my background, why would they catch a murder charge or like another felony just to harm me? Well, one, if local law enforcement is in cahoots, shall we say, with everyone else in that town, they're probably not gonna catch a murder charge. They're probably not even gonna have an investigation. But two, people don't need logic to do terrible things. Illogical actions don't require logic. So minding your business is good advice, but it alone will not just save you from crazy ass people. I want to end with this. Let's just say worse comes to worse. The mob gets you, an investigation gets underway, and your killers are hopefully brought before a court and brought to justice. For the next years, your family is going in and out of courthouses, hearing the details of your murder. But finally, your killers are put before a firing squad, or life sentence without parole depending on your laws, and justice is served. Every year, your family visits your grave. They burn incense and leave food or leave flowers, whatever your culture does. The courts ruled you were 100% the victim to a horrific crime, and your killers have been also buried 6 feet under. You are still dead. As your family weeps over your grave, no amount of financial compensation will bring you back to life. They can cry until your burial site is covered in mud. You are not coming back. There are no respawns. There is no reloading your last save. There is no magic spell or potion. There is no court of law that can bring you back from the dead. Every year during the holidays, your family and friends, through all the festivities, wish you could be there to celebrate with them. Your beliefs are yours. I'm not here to tell you otherwise, but I hope you consider this. If you are entering a place with potential danger, consider carrying a firearm, not because it is a solution to everything, but because it will give you the best odds to see your friends and family again, so that hopefully you can have many more years of happy memories to come. We all die, but why exacerbate the odds? Consider carrying a firearm. If not for yourself, do it so that you can spend more time on this earth with those you love. In the end, how much you want to listen to this video or me is completely up to you. I respect whatever you choose because it is your life. That being said, I would be damned if I made a video about how to stay safe as possible while you're in a sundown town and only gave passive solutions. Whoever you are watching this, please stay safe. It is indeed a crazy world out there. also, if you're interested in learning more about history and military tactics, as well as watching some gameplay that goes along with that, then check out my other videos. Or if you want more stories, check out my currently uploaded Marine Corps Chronicles series, or stay tuned for future videos. I really appreciate you making it to the end, and like and sub, only if you want to, of course. And thank you for watching, and